Turn this down to my ear. Let's see this real quick. Alright. This part won't take much longer. Hey, Frost. Leave the line art alone for the remainder of this unless it needs to mess with it. Hey, Jet. Yeah, it's kind. I mean, it's kind of close to what's happening. I know. I said I was gonna stream more, and then all this happened, and I was like, "Fuck!" And I need to work on it. So I'm trying to balance everything out, but I'm also like not trying to neglect the Patreon comics, or even like just the usual comics in general. So I'm trying. If anything, I'm putting you guys above this particular thing, but I'm still gonna try to work on it. But yeah, like the whole premise of this thing is that the top character is very close of beating the second character, but he can't figure out if she's just like bluffing, and he's like literally he can't afford to not use his turn, so he's kind of pick your poison scenario. And then Nadine ate all your butter. Well, you shouldn't have left your butter spread out. I mean, hello. Too many fat bitches walking around. You're gonna just leave it out just like that? They're gonna look over and be like, "Ooh," and they're gonna take like one little finger spoon of licking it, and they're gonna like it, and they're gonna keep going, and then it's all gone. Just doing a little bit of cleanup. I mean, most of the stuff I'm doing you're not even gonna see realistically, but I'm just doing it just in case it somehow matters, which it probably will. Tucked in the back of the fridge, behind the relish. Again, fat bitches walking around. They're gonna look through a fridge. Either you have a separate fridge, or you just don't have it there. Have fun playing Ocarina of Time. That's good. Ocarina of Time's a good time. Yeah, Princess Rito is pretty hot, especially the original N64 version where she's just naked. It's like, oh shit. I don't know. Nintendo's weird sometimes because like I feel because like it's weird because if you think about it, Princess Ruto got slightly censored to look like she's wearing clothes in the remake or the remake version, like just a little bit. It's not like, hold on, let me take a look just to make sure I'm remembering the same character. Well, that one's from Hyrule Warriors, but they pretty much did the same thing. Like, she's like slightly changed to make it look like she's wearing a bra, rather than just walking around naked. It's not too bad compared to what I was thinking. It's almost like, but I think what I was thinking was the look-alike character from Majora's Mask. But yeah, like they made it look like she has a bra, and it made me wonder. Okay, would they do that? Make any changes to Midna if they were to update Twilight Princess? Because I'm pretty sure they came out with like Twilight Princess HD or something at one point, if I remember correctly. I never played that version; I only played the original. All right, so we'll clean up some things in here. I don't think there's much else. Look at that smug bitch. Anyway, so this one's pretty much done aside from dialogue. So I will leave that alone for now. And we will do something else. I should probably at least work on one of the extra cards that I need to do. So I'll make some card art, and then if I have time, we'll probably do something a little bit more in line with the brand, air quotes brand. Hold on, let me scroll back up. I think I missed a few things. Shrimp Princess Red Cream Zelda, First Rose Plum, Strawberry, might be now these. Just curious, but would you ever draw Princess? Have I ever drawn her? No, I've never drawn Rito before, but I'm not I'm not against drawing her at some point. I need to. I'm debating of dropping the $10 tier for my Patreon because it's just been super neglected. But at the same time, I'm like, I can draw stuff for it. It's just the Fat Lovers Club has been a huge priority compared to the $10 tier. But I'm debating it. But if I can, I want to make some artwork for it. Also, just to share. Yeah, I saw that. I usually see everything that happens on the Discord, even if I don't reply. Like, the only time I don't see something is if something was posted and then deleted before I even had a chance to take a look. But I hope everyone else is, all of you guys are doing good. Plum, I'd love the taste of that, but she crushed mine between her thighs if I tried, still a win. Yeah, that sounds like Plum. I'm drawing a character for the Catwoman's dragon deck. And the little in joke is like, a cat character involved with dragons. It's like, if you know, you know. Figured I'd... Because I need about 6 cards made for this particular comic. And I already made 2 of them, so might as well work on this one while I can. Because the other cards, like, I can still make new ones without making the actual cards if I choose, but I'm most likely going to use the ones that I've already made. Just to save me some time. You thought it was Kiwi. I'm thinking of doing another collection set and have it be Fat Blake and Mini Marcy. I just have to decide what Mini Marcy's gonna do. I was thinking of having her be drunk. So have Fat Blake, you know, be fat and happy, and then have Mini Marcy be a bit of a booze hound. A Cleaver's accessory. Well, the idea is just to have each character have their own artwork pick. And I wanted her to stand out a little. If I do something like that, it might be a bonus, but I'm not gonna promise that. Because sometimes I do throw in something extra into the art sets that I don't promote. So, like, for example, the Metal Madness set had 2 extra characters that I didn't say was in the set. I don't think that would work for her, but I can make her like more reddish in the face with like blush and all that. I can do that. The nose, I don't think would work because the whole point of the red nose thing for toon characters is that it heavily relies on the character that is being affected by the alcohol and how they're initially designed. Because like you don't see it with Tom, for example, or if you do, his whole like presence is changed to fit it. Oh yeah, I could see Blake doing that if they were like out and about casually, and let's just say it's cold or something. Blake will just pick her up and put her in between your tits. And like if I were to throw in like random background characters, I can make them go like, "Oh," it's like Lucky Cat. It's like that lucky bitch. So yeah, so like some kind of comedic scenario, I could definitely do that. Like I'm not against the idea, I just don't know if I would use it for an art set. Sounds like something I would do for the slice of life. Ape shades like a boss. If I did that, that would have to be like a bonus pick or something, just to separate them. Exactly difficult, but you're still gonna be a hassle. So let's see how I want to do this. Man, I should probably save this. Okay. There we go, that's saved. It's always good to brainstorm. Let me erase this. This will open up good. Ooh, I just now had a better idea of how long it is. Pluto gets drunk and crashes into the wall. Yeah, like Pluto could probably get away with having a red nose, but at the same time he also doesn't need it because his nose is black. But yeah, he could probably do it because his design fits the look. But like when it comes to characters that have like smaller noses or designs that don't fit it, it's really hard to do. Cause like for example, when SpongeBob air quotes gets drunk during the first movie, after having after like ODing, or well, not ODing, but like having a shit ton of ice cream and all that, they change his design to fit the look. So he has like a 5 o'clock shadow. His eyes are all bloodshot. His nose is slightly different in tint and given the reddish tint. He wasn't special. He was just drunk off his ass. Yeah, probably. But yeah, like having the red nose when drunk is like a very specific design. Because like even like characters who are thicker, whether they be fat or chubby, they fit the red nose aesthetic as well. Ooh, I got a yay! Thank you for the follow, Zeo Cross 95 or 95.6 or 956. Yo, what up? But yeah, like the red nose thing, it just has to fit very specific characters. You can't really throw it out to everybody. The very same, he was hella obsessed. Yeah. They just have to be made for it. That's like the best I can really say. Because it's kind of like how when anime characters get drunk, either their faces are like completely red, or like they just have a really hard, like a much harder blush than they usually do, or certain blush effects are done on certain characters. It's kind of like how even if a character has a different color blood, the red blush is still used on them when they're blushing, just because it fits the it fits the look of the series. So like for example with Emerald, I have her blush red, but she has green blood. So realistically, she would be blushing green, but normally you would associate green with like being sick. And so that's why I kept it as red blush, despite her having green blood. Interesting idea, Moby and Becky. I mean, all Mobian really is just slightly, well, it depends on the era of Sonic that you're using. But for the most part, if you're going for like modern day, it's just slightly big head, noodle arms, small midsection, or like medium midsection, and then depending on the character, you can exaggerate certain features. Because like, for example, Vector the crocodile has bigger arms, and then you have Big the cat who has a larger midsection and arms and all that, but like very stubby feet. And then you have I forget his name, but he's like one of those the what are they called? Not the Sinister Six. Those 6 demon things from Sonic from Lost Worlds. I forget their names. They're so uninteresting, except for what's her name. Except for Zavik and what's her name. But yeah, like unless you're just gonna exaggerate a certain feature, it's kind of they're almost like chibi, but not they're like stretched out chibis. That's basically Sonic, the modern Sonic style. Whereas the classic era Sonic is more Disney-esque or Looney Tune-ish, depending on where you're going with it. Love the blush on Becky's. Someday I want to commission you. What am I saying? Yeah, someday I'll be open. The Deadly Six. There you go. Someday I'll open for commissions again. I've just been more occupied with my own stuff. Would Moby and Becky wear boots or shoes? If she had to wear shoes, or like, you know, footwear in general, I would probably say boots make the most sense for her. Good morning. But yeah, the Deadly Six were so boring. It was such a boring set of characters that only 2 of them matter. One for obvious reasons, and the other he just has like Zavik just has like a good design. It just, like, their abilities make no fucking sense. It's like, oh, we're demons, but we can control machines. And I'm just like, what? There's, like, no indication to why, as far as I'm aware. Like, even if you told me it was magic, it's still weird for those set of characters to have that ability. Because it doesn't even fit their looks or their design to give them such an ability. Doesn't she have hooves? Yeah, she has hooves, but I would probably like just change her look just to fit it. So, like, for example, Becky's legs are like this. Like, she has the thick thighs, they go like this, go over there, and then they're mostly like this. So if I were to like give her footwear, it'd probably just be like up here or something. Go like that. Be whatever the fuck you wanna present them as, and I don't know. Blah 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 blah. Shoes. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Just make it fit the character. Or like, hold on, let's get to delete this. But you could even be more daring. Just have them go all the way up to here, so they're thigh highs. So it's not really complicated. Just if it fits the character, then do it. This is a character for a card, since I'm doing the card game thing for the Webtoons contest thing. And I think I need at least six new artwork to draw, because this is probably going to be relevant. And I also want to do the whole idea where at the end of the episode/issue, there's like a little spot to show off the cards. It's like, oh, these were the cards that appeared this issue. And then there we go. So that's the idea that I wanted to do. What does self-insert me look like? I mean, technically any of them could be a self-insert, but if we're getting specific here, there's Becky, Viro, and Vaughn. So where is that? because I have that stashed somewhere. What did I use it for? Was it over here? No. Hold on. Because I have an easy way of showing this. It's just a matter of where the hell did I put it since I haven't used it forever. No, 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 no. No. If you see my cursor moving around, it's in a window that you guys can't see. No, that's a butt, no. God damn it. Is it over here? No. Here, maybe? Don't you hate it when you, like, have stuff and then you forget where you put it because you never use it? Could be over here. That is definitely a no. I had like a whole thing for it too. I would assume it's over here because I can't think of any other place I would put it. Ah, here it is. So this is it. These three. So these are technically my self-inserts. Hold on. Catch up. So what were you? I read that. Keep in mind you found your chapter 4. Music is giving me Armored Core vibes. Music is from Bomberman. Specifically the Bomberman Heroes. Question: which of the fruit siblings would and or have accounts for other websites? If you catch my probably Plum and Kiwi. If I'm thinking of the other characters, probably Dragon Fruit, maybe Pumpkin Pie. I'm sure there's others. Maybe Watermelon. Father's Day Acid Cast pick. Go ask your... Okay, think I answered everything. Close this now. Alright, back to it. Not really gonna matter of me drawing this chest because it's gonna be covered by that cloth. I just need it there for anatomy's sake. Yeah, I could probably see Strawberry doing that. Going on like social media just to talk shit. Realistically, farm would be about here. I could see you're sending like selfies and shit just to talk shit, and then all of a sudden, Jam comes in to the gym, and like not that she's like intentionally trying to steal her thunder, but it just kind of happens, and it just pisses off Strawberry, and then I don't know, she probably challenges Jam to a competition or something. Sounds like something she would do. Alright, take care. I did ask a question. Yes, I guess that was to trending sir MRCD. I mean, they could. There was a an idea for them to have like a third kid, but now I was like, they don't need it. Or if I do make that a thing, it'll probably be way later down the line. Likely after I do like Blake's and Skylar's individual comics. There's a clip of Tom and Jerry where Jerry and the small mouse do blackface. I mean, that's in like most old cartoons. Like, I've seen both the uncensored versions and censored versions of stuff like that. Or even just, like, other adult jokes, like when, I think it was Elmer Fudd. It was either Elmer Fudd or one of the other two characters that looked like Elmer Fudd. It was before they, like, settled on the final character. But, it was when one of them, I think, ran off a cliff, and then they looked down, and then in the original version, it shows them turning into like different objects and creatures to represent them being like a fool or a sucker or whatever. And in one of them, they turn into a donkey, and it's supposed to represent that they became a jackass. And you would hear like the donkey make a sound effect and all that, so you know that was the joke. And then in like the censored versions, either they would just have the character stare at the camera as you hear the donkey noise go, because they basically just freeze it so that way you don't see him turn into the animal, or you just see his face turn into a lollipop, aka a sucker, and then you would still hear the donkey noise because they didn't change the audio, they only changed the visuals. Hello, Reza. If Lara had complications at birth due to hyper situation, it may have yeah, there's always the possibility that Marcy having her kids could have caused different things to happen. Because one could have been born from an egg and the other one could have been born normally. Kind of a coin toss on which I would make happen. And then it's a matter of who it happened with. Like, maybe it was Marcel that was the egg and not Alara. I'm only drawing this so we can see where his body is when I put the robe on him. Kind of like a Gagagigo. Who would be a good mom between those two? I have no idea. It's a coin toss if I'd ever go that far with them. I mean, I could. Okay, I can make up whatever I want. Like, if I really spent the 2 seconds, I could think about it. I just don't, because they're just not on my to-do list at the moment. But can I think of something? Sure. Like, I can always think of something that's not hard. Of course, I'd have to refine it a bit just so it could, like, make sense, or, you know, the typical stuff. But, like, if I say I don't know, it's mostly just because I haven't put the time into thinking about it. Because there has to be a certain point where you're just not thinking about that stuff. Because if you don't plan on going that far, then there's no reason to think about it. It's kind of like in, you know, Dragon Ball, for example. It's like we've seen Goku, then we've seen Goku have Gohan, and then we've seen Gohan have Pan. And then the furthest we see with that scenario, we don't even know if Pan ever had kids, which she probably did. I don't see why she wouldn't, but we only see Goku Jr. and Vegeta Jr., and they're like further down the line, because even Pan was all like, oh, he looks just like Grandpa. So clearly there's like a point in time where we don't even see her love life, we just see something else, and we don't even know if that's going to be like a thing to think about in the future. It's like, oh, are we going to see Goku Jr.'s parents? Because he was only relevant for like 2 things. He was relevant for the ending of GT, and he had like his own movie where he got the 4-star ball. And that was it. That was the extent of Goku Jr., as far as I remember. You like how I drew Marcel? Thank you. She kind of reminds me of Nexu Cat from Star Wars. I do not know who that is. The one who attacked Padme in the comments. I do not know who that is. Let me see if I can look it up. Oh, that thing. Yeah, I can see it. But yeah, like, family tree stuff only matters if you're gonna actually use it for anything. Like, obviously there'll be characters where it's like, oh, you know, what's our family tree? And then you like spend a moment to explain for a bit, and you'll probably just toss out a bunch of names that for the most part don't matter. Until you get to, like, you know, the characters that show up and stuff like that. And then other times the family tree is like incredibly small, where just like, oh, well, we start with Grandpa and then we just go down from there, and then it only goes to like the kids, and then that's it. So pretty much just boils down to what you intend to care about. Does Pepper have any surviving family? Yes, she has her brothers and probably her parents. Assuming I didn't kill them. I honestly don't remember if I did or didn't. Let's find out. Do I mention them at all? I had Pepper, blah 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 blah. Fights, blah blah blah. Blah 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 blah. I don't even look. It doesn't even look like I even met. Oh, here we go. Pepper's parents would send her to her grandparents. So yeah, so she has her parents and her grandparents. So yeah, she has surviving family. The only ones we've seen are her brothers.
The game's over.
Canonically, Pepper is not dead. That comic you saw with her blowing up, that was just a commission. That was not canon at all. And get some more music going on. Yeah, a lot of people think that Pepper blowing up is canon, and I'm like, no, it's not canon. It's a commission. I even say it in the title of the picture. Commissions are not canon. Let's tweak the leg a little bit more. Think of Family Guy where Quagmire's family, which everything happens in fucking Family Guy at this point. They keep making up shit for the characters. Like, it's already gotten to the point where they they revised or retconned how Lois met Peter a few times. So at this point, it's just whatever the plot wants, that's what happens. Sometimes Brian is racist, sometimes he's not. Sometimes Dewey's gay, sometimes he's not. Well, most of the time he's gay. Sometimes he's not. Like, at this point, I'm just like, whatever. That's why I only like the first few seasons of Family Guy because it was just funnier, personally. The rest are just kind of whatever. Like, I don't hate them, but they're just not as good personally. You could tell that they're just phoning it in. Same thing goes for The Simpsons, where they're retconning. Well, they already did, but they retconned how, or like where Homer and Marge grew up, because like before it was like, oh, you know, this was happening in like the 70s or the 80s, and then now it's like, oh, here's the 90s, because the 90s is considered old now. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm at that point in my life where the 90s is considered old. Like, old. How did Becky get her chimeric design? I just threw a bunch of shit together and made a character. That's basically all I did. If we're talking like canonically, her mom had a weird interaction with a band that she was a groupie for. But if we're just talking like how I designed the character, I just winged it like I usually do. And realistically, this should not work this way if that's how it looks in the comic. I have to change this. Yeah, canonically, her mom was a groupie for a band, and she basically got the VIP treatment. And in some bizarre genetic way, all of her fathers basically inseminated the same egg, but it didn't like split or anything. So it's almost like saying Becky is like a amalgamation of conjoined twins, but like it just functionally works the way it works. It's like the best way to put it. Tell me about it. 90s being old. A pic from 1998 featuring Gillian Anderson holding a gun. Jesus. It's like, oh, back in the 90s. I was like, that wasn't even that long ago. What the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, oh god, is this how it feels for our parents? Whenever things like that are used in jokes of movies and cartoons, where it's like, oh, this was how things were in the 70s and 80s, and they're like, dude, that wasn't even that long ago. What the hell? Right? I think everybody agrees that 90s animation was fucking peak. For the most part. Like, obviously there are still animations today that are just really fucking good. But like, back then in the 90s and shit, nobody gave a fuck, so they got away with so much shit. Nobody gave a fuck. There was titties, there was blood, there was fucking ridiculous amounts of detail for animations and brutal scenes and stuff like that. It's like, oh, here's the fucking nervous system of this robot, of this character that's being thrown through the sun or some shit. Like, I don't know, like, they just went apeshit back then. Nowadays it's a little bit more conserved. And then, like, depending on what the animation is, they still don't go as far as they did in the 90s. Back in the 90s, you just got random titty pics, just because. It's like, well, this character's topless for some fucking reason. Is it a good thing? I don't know. Is it a bad thing? Hell no. Let the artist be free, but damn. You just got flashbang like so many times. Oh yeah, Golden Boy. Do I still have that? I probably do. If I don't, I know where to find it. I'm sure I still have it though. But yeah, Golden Boy was fun. Hell, most normal cartoons like fucking Gundam and all that would have random tits show up. Ghost in the Shell, the movie, mostly had it. Then you have like random animes like 8-Man and Guyver. Well, Guyver was its own thing, but still, like, you had all that and they were like hyper violent. Disney Mighty Ducks, hell yeah. Here's Nostalgia Bomb. I had a crush on the. Oh yeah. Most characters, most Disney characters or Disney women in the 90s were attractive, and still are. I mean, come on, Peg Pete from Goof Troop, hell yeah. Nobody's saying no to her. Becky and Mighty Ducks gear, that would be fun, actually. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Some people are like, "Oh, what made you become a furry?" And they would just name out characters from the fucking 90s. It's either them or fucking Robin Hood characters. Sometimes they would say Lion King, but a good chunk of the time it was just 90s Disney cartoons and fucking Robin Hood characters. Oh yeah, they always drew dummy thick characters. It was great. Nowadays it's all like, oh, why is she fat? Or that's not how you draw a fat character. And they were like, dude, if you don't like it, draw it yourself. We don't give a shit. Just let us have fucking fun. You think I care that fucking I draw Blueberry Jam like super bottom heavy and the rest of her body is not proportionate to it? No, I just drew it because I wanted to. That's why I went out of my way to get old cartoons. When I was working my first job, during my breaks, I would just have my laptop on me, and I'd just be like during my lunch break, I would just be watching like an episode of like Darkwing Duck or SWAT Cats or whatever. Same thing in college. Like, oh, it's like an hour or so before my next class. Okay, I guess I'm watching Goof Troop or something, just because I could. Oh yeah, the art style. Good times. Isn't it true that one of the original Looney Tunes artists does furry porn? I mean, most artists do draw porn. Like, pretty much all of them did. You may not see it, but they pretty much did. Like, the people who worked on, Ninja Turtle, the Ninja Turtles Rise, I think it was, that one. Like a few years ago, people found out that they drew a bunch of porn of the Ninja Turtle characters doing shit. And I was just like, yeah, that's normal, everyone did that. Or the creator of Astro Boy drew a bunch of porn. And like transformation stuff. And furries, of course. Dr. Seuss drew like some pretty dark art back in the day as well that you can look up. I mean, yeah. I would be more surprised if they didn't. Like, I'm sure at some point somebody working on Robin Hood probably drew Maid Marian in some risque positions. Obviously, it wouldn't be put into production or anything, but they probably just drew art of her. And even if they did draw it, Disney probably has a vault with all those designs just sitting there, never to see the light of day. Just like Nickelodeon does with SpongeBob, because the adult SpongeBob artwork got leaked not too long ago, like what, a year or two ago. So all the adult SpongeBob stuff came out, so that was funny. Whatever pays the bills, yeah. It's like either it pays the bills or you just did it for fun. That's basically it. Wasn't Dr. Seuss like a political cartoonist guy? Probably. I think he was. I mean, even if he was, it doesn't matter. He's allowed to have his opinions about stuff. I don't see anything wrong with that. Whether I agree or disagree with it. He was and a racist. I wouldn't be surprised. But still does good art. I don't care. And then you gotta give him slack. It was probably a different time or whatever the case for him. So, it is what it is. I'm not gonna hold a grudge over somebody I don't know, personally. I will fuck that guy. Something separate art. Yeah, that's basically my mentality. I separate the art from the artist. Does Becky lay eggs? Yes. The answer is 100% yes. I don't know what to do with that information, but I have it now. I've thought I've mentioned it like a few times, that Becky lays eggs. Anyone else like the dad bod from Silver John from Treasure Planet? I'd have to look at him. It's been a while since I've thought about that character. No, not Treasure Island, Treasure Planet. He's alright. I mean, I've seen better. I mean, Little John from fucking Robin Hood. Again, Robin Hood characters. The cyborg. Oh yeah, the cat lady, fuck yeah. And then, what was her name? Like, Lathe or something like that from Titan AE. Titan AE. Alien woman. What was her name? No, not her. The hot one. Stiff. Yeah, Stiff. There we go. Yeah, just look up Stiff from Titan AE, and there you go. She was spread eagle most of the movie. Because of the way she's designed. And I'm just like, damn, she is just out there. Good old movies. Sucks that that movie didn't do well. Same thing for I think Treasure Planet didn't do well either. But they're like cult classics now. I also blame the French fry. Oh yeah, that one. That was a good episode. I like the middle point of the episode before they just look like giant balloons. But other than that, yeah. I think like Gentoo is like the only one where they didn't make him look like a balloon for some fucking reason, and they just made him like actual weight gain, which was the funniest part. I was like, wait a minute, you spent all this time establishing that this is how the power works, but when it came to him, it didn't do anything. They didn't treat him in the same fashion. It was like, okay, somebody wanted to do this specifically for Gentoo, and they just made a whole fucking episode around it. Which is like most old school cartoons anyway. Or, I mean, Lilo and Stitch movie wasn't exactly old school, it was like middle now. But still, it's like within that realm. I learned that in other parts of the world, a werewolf is not just a wolf, it can be a werecat. Yeah, werewolves are interesting when you look at them in different designs. Some of them just look like skinny cats. And other times werewolves aren't even like big and bulky, they're just like really fucking thin. And I'm like, nah, give me the big fur daddies, please. That's why when I do my own stuff, I don't like 100% stick to established lore when it comes to like creatures, because it's like ultimately we're just making shit up anyway, so I can just do whatever I want. It's like, oh, is this a vampire or is it a succubus? And I'm just like, it's whatever the hell I want it to be. It's like trying to identify what a zombie actually is until we actually have zombies. Because we came up with definitions for it, but then it like slightly changes over time. Like, okay, are zombies dumb? Are they smart? Can they see? Do they have heightened smell? Do they fall apart over time due to decay, or do they just stay in like a permanent state of reanimation? There's like so many definitions for it for a zombie. True. Like, if you have like rules to establish, and then that's what locks you in, because it's like, okay, in this world, that's how this works. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, once I start doing stuff in my comic, that's where it starts slowly locking down, like, what is what. But, until I do it, I don't exactly 100% stick to, the rules. And then sometimes the rules change depending on, like, the character. So, like, for example, Emerald. Does she look like a typical mantis? No. Does she have mantis arms? Not really, because she has like metal blades that come out of like secondary arms. But do normal mantises exist in her world? Yes. So there's like, at some point I'm going to show her with other mantises just so you can see the difference. But she's not like 100% locked down in the same rules as other characters or animals. Honestly, there are creatures of way more animals than anything. Oh yeah. Especially when you go into like water or like the ocean and insect creatures, and there's a shit ton of designs that haven't been explored. Or if they have been, it's like, depends on what the design was. Like the best way to think about how to draw robots is think about how insects are designed, because it's basically the same thing. You just have to understand how joints work. Do the other ones bite the heads off of males? Sometimes. That can be a thing. The best way to put it for that scenario is if she's a city girl, then odds are no. Country girl, odds are no, although she might be a bit of a biter. Like more often than normal. Like, obviously mantis women can still, bite as a sexual tease type of thing. But if she's tribal, then most likely yes, you should probably avoid that. Unless you just feel like being lucky. Because it's all about, where exactly are you interacting with these characters? Or where are you in the world? I love an enchanted color that makes me immune to the negative health effects of that stuff, so I can get super huge. I mean, there's always the possibility that it exists. I mean, Skylar alone basically fits that. It's like, oh, okay, I can make anybody fat and I can decide if they're healthy or not. Cool. The hard part is just hiding such an ability. Because you know damn well if somebody gained that ability in real life, they would get found out really fucking fast. Because they would not consider the pros and cons immediately. They would just be like, oh cool, I can do this. They would do it for like a day or two, maybe a week at most, and then they would get easily found out because they didn't think ahead. Me, I've overthought this shit way too much, so if I ever gained special abilities like that, you know damn well I'd figure out how to hide it. I'd kill for his power. Well, in Skylar's case, it's not an ability you can teach. He's just born with it. Although it required an accident for him to unlock it, but he was, for the most part, he's just born with it. Yeah, if you're gonna try to find like a god relic, good luck. Like with the whole thing with Daylock in the earlier versions of My Hat, that was when I was just throwing in characters from other series just because originally they wasn't tied to the same universe. But then once I decided to do that, to like put the two universes together into one world, that's when I'm like, okay, realistically, Daylock wouldn't even give a shit about Skylar almost dying. So I had to rethink of how he got his abilities. Which, luckily, characters with supernatural abilities are already a thing. It just differs based on how it works. And so in his case, he's technically an aura user, but he's like on the low end. So it's not even like there are characters that could detect his abilities if they chose to, or if they were like around him to notice. But he's like bottom of the totem pole. And plus, since he's like not, you know, super showboaty about it, he's most likely just going to continue on through life not being noticed. Unless like somebody decided to be like, hey, a lot of people in this town have gotten fat, or like, let's just say he went overboard and just like a bunch of people just started getting fatter and fatter, like over time and in a relatively quick pace. Then yeah, somebody might be sent out to go check in on that. But that's if it's like that fucking out in the open. So what are some other ways I could learn to obtain those or similar powers? I mean, I guess there's magic, but you'd have to have an infinity for it. And then pray to God that it doesn't backfire. Or that whoever is teaching you requires a specific type of fee. I mean, practically anything can happen. It just depends on the story behind it and the context. But if we're talking like God stuff, it's like good luck. That's like a needle in a haystack. Because the whole point with the gods, at least, is like they're not supposed to care, and if they do, it's likely out of boredom. I mean, it's literally like Ryuk from Death Note. It's like, what's his job? Oh, just write names in a book, take the lives of whoever, take their remaining life days, and add it to his own, and that's it. That is the extent of his job. And then he did all the stuff that happens in Death Note because he was bored. And that's it. That was literally his only motivation. If you're making an OC, just have fun with it. Like, it's not like it's canon anyway, so just have fun with it. If you come up with random reasons why your character has the ability, then there you go. If you want to make up, oh, we met Skylar and Skylar somehow taught him how to do it, then, you know, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. Yeah, like I said, just have fun with it. No worries. We're just chilling. Just working on this. I think I'm done with the line art. It's not like a complicated character, he's just old. Maybe extend this out a little bit more. Skylar Shaman. Unacceptable. Oh. He looks like a Skylar Yoda. Yeah, like, you can, like, whatever idea you could come up with, just run with it. Like, there are several stories, like I've seen stories of characters with, like, magical collars that let them do bizarre shit. Some of them I'll probably do in the future. Like the Switch collar, where there's two collars. One wears it's almost like Portal, where basically whatever food one eats, it affects the other person instead. And so there's like a comic done by Duo Ride-On, where it was like I think it was a genie woman or a magical woman. She gets a collar, gives it to the other guy. She just scarfing down a whole feast, and you just see his stomach swell as she eats. And then she decides to switch the collars, has herself a bit of a stuffing, and then they both rest, and that's the end of the comic. Then there's like the one that I semi-used with Blueberry Jam, where one character, it's like the same magical girl, but it's a different guy. He eats like a bunch of food that's like really tiny, and she says that, oh, I only made it tiny just so it'd be easier for us to take it with us. And so she returns the food to their original size, and so she just keeps stuffing him with small food and then turning him back to his original size so he gets all big and bloated. And then she pulls out I want to say it's like a large dollhouse, but it's like in the shape of a gingerbread house. And then she plans on having him eat it before she puts it to its original size, because they were going to originally live in the house. And then he gets really weary or like a dread scenario where she's like, oh no, or he's like, oh no, and she's like, oh yes, and then it ends because we don't know what happens after that. So yeah, whatever idea you think is fun, just do it and make it your own. Like, change whatever you need to change and have fun. Yeah, Dr. Worm does all that. Yeah, like, I've been following Duo Ride-On since I was like 13. It's a shame that they stopped, because I guess they got like a new job doing something. I don't know what exactly, but they stopped doing commissions. Or I know they still draw and post every once in a while, but I don't know if they do anything more. But yeah, like if you see an idea by somebody, just make it your own if you plan on using it. Like pretty much every idea has done something. Everybody's done something, so it's almost incredibly hard to come up with something new. Yeah. Because when I got to the end of the Blueberry Jam thing, I was like, okay, I want to do this with Yorjidop. And like even the person who commissioned Duo Rhydon to do that comic, they saw my version and they thought it was great. They're like, oh hey, I'm glad somebody was inspired by that commission. I was like, oh yes, of course, it was great. And then people who have read that comic were like, oh yeah, they like the reference. So yeah, just make it fun. Or, have fun with it and, do it in whatever way you want. Like the scene with Red in Black Circus who gets eaten by the whale character. That's a slight reference to a scene from a novel that I read where there was a wolf character that I liked and I thought she was a really fun character, but the author decided to kill her off. And I was like, nah, fuck that. And so so when I revised Red, since she was already a character I had, she just hadn't done anything in years, I revised her a bit, made her own, and then just gave her that scene just so she could say fuck you to that whale. That was literally the reason why I revamped her through all that, because I was like, nah, we're not having that. And even her first name is a reference to that character, because Red didn't have a full name; she was just called Red back then. So when I gave her a full name, the first part of her name is a reference to that character. Because I was miffed. I was like really pissed off that happened in the book. I was like, hell no. I was like, she was a fun character. Why did you do that? All it takes is for me to get spite, to have a little bit of spite, and I'm like, nah. That's literally how I ended up with Marcy and Skylar, because of the Hetty comic. I was like, what? The author's not posting the other pages anymore, or more of the pages, or they stopped at chapter 4 or whatever the case was at the time. It's like, fine, I'll make my own version with blackjack and hookers. Now that I think about it, we did do the blackjack and the hookers. God damn it. Maybe, well, yeah. Would Joanne be considered a hooker? No. Maybe. but yeah, we pretty much got to that point. Not gonna lie, not a fan of Vor, but love Red. Yeah, like I'm fully aware that there's going to be stuff in my comics that people aren't gonna jam with. Like sometimes they don't like weight gain, sometimes they don't like gay stuff, sometimes they don't like Vor or whatever, characters turning into robots. Like I'm sure, like obviously I cannot please everybody. I'm not expecting to please everybody. That's why my whole mentality is just, I am drawing whatever the hell I'm interested in drawing in, and everybody else is just in for the ride. It's like, oh, you guys want to see, I don't know, short stack penguin women who stuffed themselves full of meatballs and spaghetti, and one of them was a snake, but the snake like just keeps making them eat until they get huge. Then yes, that is the story that I plan to do. Which ironically there is a snake who kind of does that. Not entirely the same idea, but if I wanted to do that idea, I could do it. Nothing's stopping me. Do I just want to do some like vanilla stuff every once in a while? Sure. I'm not opposed to it. Like, I have fun with it. I can have fun with anything. I have an overactive imagination, and I'm going to use it. Can't wait for Plum to get big in her comic. Yeah, I know. It's gonna be a while. I know she will, but I hope Kiwi at least a bit of weight. Kiwi's slowly going back down. Not a huge war person, but it doesn't really bother me. Say no to that. Yeah. That's why I try not to have everything happen to one set of characters, because I have so many others to fit that void. So, like, for example, people... This hasn't happened in a while, but like people would used to ask if Marcy would be into sumo wrestling for some reason, and I would say no, that's not her thing. But could I make a character who's into sumo wrestling? Sure, I don't have a problem with it. Like, I would probably research a bit of sumo wrestling just to see how that actually works, and then of course if I'm going to make it a weight gain thing rather than muscle gain, or whatever the case that sumo wrestling actually explores, I can always mix in the two. Like, nothing wrong with that. Just have fun. How do you feel about sound effects? How do I feel about the sound effects shows used to describe weight? Oh, you mean like the tuba and stuff like that? You mean? Doesn't bother me, it just depends on the scenario. I mean, a lot of the times it's all about context. You can't really... It's hard to explain that without knowing the context of something. You hope that she doesn't lose it all. She will eventually return to her original weight, because if she doesn't, that kind of defeats the point. But she will be a little bit chubby still in Plum's comic when I get around to that. But she will eventually return to her original weight. Sumo can be a big roast, since I think one of the rules involves never washing the sumo gear. I mean, that's if I want to do traditional stuff. If I don't want to, then I mean that's not even an issue. Like, a lot of things I always get confused over is where people keep applying real life stuff to fantasy, and they forget that, hey, none of the stuff that you dislike about this thing has to apply. And I'm not saying like you specifically or what you said specifically. I'm just saying like people will be like, oh, like it's like literally like weight gain stuff. They'll be like, oh, eating that much is unhealthy. I'm like, yes, but this is a cartoon. What are you bitching about? Or it's like, oh my god, why are you showing this character being decapitated? That's not cool, blah blah blah. I'm like, again, this is fantasy. If you don't like it, don't come here. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere that fits your vibe. Meaning an art pack with all the moms stuffing themselves. MSC 3K makes a good point. Just repeat yourself, it's just a show. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, this still happens now. It's like literally with the whole, like with lolly characters. It's just like, it's the same shit. People freak the fuck out because they're like, oh, this character is blah 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 age. And I'm like, okay, yes, but this is fantasy. None of this matters. If we even put in a tenth of this much effort complaining about fantasy characters into real life people, then a lot of lives would be a lot better off. It's just bizarre on people's priorities when it comes to that. But that's my opinion on that. Grab the red. There we go. And switch this on a different layer because I don't want to deal with that. There we go. Is it a kobold? I would want to say it's a dragon because that fits the archetype that the character is playing. But making it a kobold would probably be better balance-wise since it's part of the card game and you don't want her spamming his ability. So I was thinking kobold, and that should probably be the answer then. Because now that makes more sense now that I said it out loud. So yes, I'm going to say this is a kobold. Which means I would need to redo his name. Because I just wrote dragon just for the hell of it, but changing it is not hard. Let's do that right now just so I'm not thinking about it. Land shifter, kobold. At first I thought it was an old version of Sky. Yeah, I figured. There. Because balance-wise, it would probably be better if he wasn't a dragon. Because then you could just spam his ability rather easily. I mean, I'm sure eventually, if the card game ever became more popular, there'd be a way to spam him, but for the moment, no. I'm sure I missed some stuff. Read that. Has Pumpkin Pie ever killed anyone with her fatness? Probably. If we applied any... What does that say? If we applied any magic or any amount of real life logic to this, these women would have exploded long before gaining this big. I know, right? Players will always find a way to cheese. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the way I'm making the game, I'm fully aware that there's going to be ways to exploit things. That's why it kind of has like a self-regulating mechanic. So like cause that's why all the cards have like tier numbers. So like let's just say you play in a tournament and the tournament says your deck can only be a tier 60. That means all the cards in your deck have to equal that, or can only go up to that number. So if too many powerful cards take up slots, then you have to, you know, decide, hey, do I want these particular cards in my deck, or do I want to use up the space for something else, type of thing. It's basically the logic of Mega Man Battle Network, where they have the chip system, and you could only have so many of certain chips in your deck. It's basically like that. Can I make a fat deck? Yes, you can. There's only a few fat cards at the moment, but when I get the chance, I want to work on more of the cream-filled cards, because their cards will be directly related to weight gain stuff, and then there'll be more throughout time and stuff like that. So it'll be its own thing, and like Marcy cards exist. Okay, so I need this. I know Marcy's cards I'm gonna revise at a certain point, because some of them were made mostly focused on like the leveling style that Yu-Gi-Oh does, where it's like, oh, you have this character, so you level it up to this. So they're like, those cards will still exist, but I'm gonna make like other ones in the future that that can like change on their own, that don't require like multiple cards. But like, I'll probably still have them be able to interact with the older cards, so that way the older cards can still be used in some way. So it's like, oh, if you have this version, then you can easily get to this version. It's like keeping the old cards relevant rather than power creeping them. Like, they'll still be power creep, but like still have the older cards relevant to help out. Yes, Ko is a Cobalt. Sorry, it's hard to scroll on this. Here we go. What's the name of the weight gain fatness deck? I haven't made a name for it yet. But the ones with the Creamfield characters coming, their set's going to be called Fruit Parade. Some of the food cards do appear in... What was it called? Hold on. Because some sets are already out. Let's see, is it this one? No, I don't think it's this one. No. In Sinister Society, there's some of the IHAC cards. So like, there's some of the food stuff that Skylar made, some of Skylar's cards. Marcy is in this set. Some food characters and other Skylar related cards. But there will be more in the future. And then the deck that Kiwi used in the comic is basically a Waking deck. It's technically a I-Hat deck, but it has the Waking strategy in it. Because if it was solely a Waking deck, then cards like Becky wouldn't be in there. Or Blake wouldn't be in there either. But because it falls into Waking rather easily, Kiwi was able to use it in that fashion. I want to see Marcel drawn fat someday. I mean, it'll happen. I'm not against it. It just won't be canon. I might show that she's a bit of an eater, but like in terms of like getting to Marcy's kind of size, that's not going to be a thing. So the most we're going to get of her doing that is just being a bit on the thicker side. I mean, it's pretty much going to be the way I do Fat Skylar, if you've seen any of that artwork. Or any other character that I've done, like Fat Guilmon, so... It's not really hard to imagine how I do it. Maybe I'll change it around, like do something that I don't normally do, but other than that, it's not really hard to imagine. No skinny bitches in the Fitcho household. Yeah. Most of Marcy's family are on the, well, the women at least are on the thicker side. Like, Mars isn't fat, but she is, she does have a lot of muscle. So, Dingo has a lot to handle since he's fucking tiny compared to her. Dingo is just like, well, get better call in sick tomorrow. I ain't gonna be walking after this. And then Alara is bottom heavy. Because she just lounges around, snacking all the time. She's not like fat, but she's definitely she definitely got a big booty. Yeah, Jupiter's fun. But yeah, for now, streams are gonna have to be about maybe once a week, because I'm trying to put my time into the contest stuff, and then working on Patreon stuff too. So I plan to do another secrets this week if I get a chance. I'm also gonna like ramp up secrets a bit, because we're getting into the territory of okay, Caitlyn is gonna experiment with the collar, but we don't need to see her like going through a whole eating scenario. We can like do a bit of time skips where we see her already like we'll see her like eating the food, but then we'll see like the end result of her binging. So we'll see her like going around town, kind of like, oh, hot dogs, cakes, whatever, and then we'll see like her with a big belly, and then the belly shrinks, and then big belly, then belly shrinks, until we get to like the ending part where she has the mishap with the collar, and then go from there. Because I don't want to like drag it out any longer than it needs to. Yeah, exactly, a montage. Am I coloring the contest entry? I have to, because that's part of the rules. They have to be colored. But I'm just gonna do flat color, unless I feel like doing a specific scene in full render. The flat coloring is gonna have to be the main choice if I'm gonna save time. Because I was doing it full render, but it was just sucking up a lot of time, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to. Because I'm not even sure if I'm going to upload in March. I think I'm going to probably wait towards May, or whenever I get all 3 episodes done, like whenever I'm done ASAP type of scenario. But flat coloring is going to have to be the choice. Fuck, I need that color. I thought the acid cast where that idiot got. Oh yeah. So yeah, I guess we have to eat him. But yeah, like I'm gonna try to keep the cards that get used in the comic to still be, fully rendered, because it will save me time for when I use them in real life. But other than that, the comic itself is going to be flat coloring. Like I'm probably like I'm not even going to do I'm not even going to do cell shading. I'm just going to do like basically the way I did it for Kiwi's comic is how I'm going to do it. It'll save me a bunch of headache. And then the way that Webtoons wants their comics is so jarring with the mobile style. So I'm trying to make it mobile, but at a certain point I'm just gonna say, like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it the way I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm not gonna do it the Western comic way, because that's not how they want it, but I'm gonna try to do it their way. But ultimately, like, in scenario, let's just say nothing works out, the contest is over, didn't win, or blah 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 blah. If I do continue the comic in some way, I'm probably gonna do it the way I usually do comics, because it's just better for me. Where does this fetish of making comics of fat people come from? It's the best way to explain this. Have I done anything with Bianca fat yet? I drew her fat a few times, or once or twice. But where does the idea of making these comics come from? Well, the idea of making characters or people fat in general is just an old kink from God knows when. But in terms of comics, people have been doing it forever. Cause like in I forget when, but like in was it medieval times? I mean, I'm sure it was sooner than that, but like there's been like old paintings and stuff of like hefty women and chubby women, because back in the day, a woman who was like plump and stuff like that was considered, you know, a good thing, because it meant that she lived in a wealthy household. The husband took very good care of her, so she was able to, like, you know, put on weight. So that's why you always have paintings of thick women back in those times. When it comes to the comics of watching a character get fat, that probably comes from cartoons, because cartoons did that often, where you would see a character divulge and Banji do something that they probably shouldn't have done, and then they get all fat and full and either lazy or whatever scenario they got put in. So that's probably the reason why weight gain comics became more prevalent, because people just like the idea of seeing a character, you know, fall into a vice and, you know, indulge themselves, or, you know, just it's almost like seeing a character get corrupted in some way. Like, it's not exactly an evil thing, but it's more like you just want to see them kind of fall from grace, if that fits the idea. It's kind of like, you know, you see it's like for like Sonic the Hedgehog, for example, when you first see a character get roboticized, it's like, oh shit, this is like a really dark moment, or a really mind-changing moment for you. Or like, you know, when a character becomes a zombie, it's like the same idea, but you're turning it into something else, or you're using a different theme. It's basically the same idea. I think the zombie example fits better on how to explain it. It's like basically seeing a character become a zombie, and you're like, oh no, but you want to see what happens. Dutch artist Rubens popularized chubby women as a virtue. Oh, good to know. I remember seeing that term. I just completely forgot about it. Yeah, I remember seeing Rubenesque before. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. But yeah, there we go. Who are some canon characters killed by Skylar induced by Skylar food induced exploding? Aside from him being a serial killer, where that answer could be kind of random, canonically that we know of, only one character he has actively gone out of his way to kill. Not counting Tiffany, because that's a different timeline. the old World Gates comics. They're alright. Like I'm pretty sure if I were to focus on World Gates again, I could do way better now than I did back then. Especially with how where my headspace is on canonical stuff. And again, like not too much has really changed aside from like character interactions and when certain things take place. Ultimately, like not too much of the story is changed. If I were to revamp it now, it'd pretty much be almost 1-to-1 the same, with the exception of some characters either no longer existing because of personal reasons, or characters had redesigns, so I have to change them in order to fit where they are in the comic. Because some of the characters will have redesigns because they just don't fit what I have in mind anymore. TLDR on Natalie. Trying to think, because there's technically two answers to this. Well, the original version of her was basically just girl gets left to die, makes a deal with a demon, gains monster powers, and basically does whatever her master orders her to do, and that's how she gets extra powers, by killing other monsters. The other answer is because she's getting a reboot. It's almost the same idea, but I want it to be more gothic and horror based. So I want her to be a lot more introverted and dreary. Like, not exactly unhappy, but just like more kept to herself. And she'll definitely be a lot more violent when she's in her monster forms. And then I want the monster forms, at least the first time when she transforms, to be more horrific when she changes. So almost painful looking. But in terms of like the character, like what her backstory is like she's mostly home alone because her parents are either super busy with work, or they're like overseas for their jobs and stuff like that, and they send her food money, or they leave her notes as a way of communicating with her, so she like rarely ever sees them. And then she's mostly like kind of closed off because they've missed enough of her birthdays where she just stopped caring, type of thing. And then she's not a popular person in school. She's like, the weirdo nerd girl. So she gets teased a lot and stuff like that. And then like with her rework, she's more in the gothic stuff, so they just think she's strange for that, and then that's what leads to her getting into a violent accident, which introduces her to her master, and that's how she gets powers and stuff like that. And the reason why I'm reworking is because there's just a lot of stuff that I want to change, and there's just a lot of things that don't fit the way I would do the comic now. And because the comic is still like in its more earlier days, I think it's just better to change it to what I want it to be. Currently, Buckle is not in the same universe as World Gates and I-Hat and all that. So there's a lot more human characters, but there's still like animal characters, but they're all like monsters or spirits or something. Yokai, whatever you want to call them. He's almost done. Just gotta finish the rendering, put in some effects for his staff, give him some random background, and then just make his card for when I need to use it. But yeah, like if I didn't change this character's type to like a kobold or something that can't be easily spammed, then he'd be a fairly broken card. Unless I give him like a high tier number, so that way in the future if he's ever used in like tournaments or whatever, it's like, alright, your deck has to be blank number, and if his number is like too costly, then it'd be like, alright, we can only have one copy of him in the deck or some shit like that. Because of his ability. How many heroes and villains are in my world? Oh, Jesus. If we're just talking the main heroes and villains, then there are 12 each, I believe. So you're 12 or 13. I want to say 12 because the idea was to fit a clock. But if I mean like in each one, then there's a ton. Like I don't even know the answer to that number. But if we're just talking like the very main ones, then 12 each. Thugs and Apricot would appreciate the possibility of finding a new friend, just as weird as both of them. I mean, it's always possible, especially with Douglas's kinks, and I don't see Apricot not saying yes to it. Just depends on where I'd want to take them in their story, because currently everything that happens in Creamfield, it's like done with proxy characters. I mean, obviously not the Creamfield girls themselves, but like Douglas is technically a proxy in that world. Like he's not real. So the events of Creamfield will lead to Douglas meeting Apricot in another time. If that's like the best way to put it. Because this was already like shown in Kiwi's comic that none of the characters were real. I mean, for all we know, you're probably not real. We'll never know if we're all just figments of somebody's dream. We will never know the answer to that. Or the better way to put it, we will find out the answer to that, but we won't be able to tell anybody in this world. I know Webtoons, and why not make one? Mostly because the current stuff that I'm making is too mature for their website, and realistically, there would be a lot like, okay, like for example, if I was to do iHat as a Webtoons, I would have to heavily censor a lot of shit that happens in the comic. I would have to skip pages because that's when it gets into like sex stuff and all that. At least in iHat's case, I have no idea how they're gonna handle weight gain stuff because they might consider that too kinky. So that theme in of itself can't be used if that's the case. So if I were to use iHat 2 for example, that one might do a little bit better, but once it gets to the sexual stuff, that's just a lot of shit that I'd have to either censor or completely remove because of the way the site functions. And the only reason why... Oh, you have a good day. Take care. The only reason why Webtoons is leery about mature content now is because back then there was a mature section for Webtoons, but because they started putting their stuff onto like Apple phones or like Apple's app application and all that, Apple was really fucking stingy with mature content, and so they won't allow it on their mobile stuff, on their mobile shops. So in order to stay in Apple's good graces, at least on the mobile side, Webtoons won't allow mature content, but they do have like the desktop side technically, and that's the side that does allow mature content to a degree because they're really nitpicky about what is mature and what isn't. Like sometimes chapters will have nipples in certain comics, and then other times they want you to censor it, so it's like up in the air on what the fuck is allowed to have that kind of stuff. And then another thing with it is sometimes if somebody behind Webtoons doesn't agree with like a page or whatever, they'll just randomly remove it without notifying the creator. Because I've had that happen with Buckle once or twice, where one of the scenes, like, even though it was, I think this was like before or right when they started putting the stuff on Apple, but like there's a scene where Natalie is topless, and so it got removed for being too mature. So I censored it, and it was fine for a while, and then it got removed randomly again. And so then I just like, I think I was able to put it back up. You know what? I am very curious if it's still there now. Let's find out. Because this will answer my question immediately. Is it this one? Blah 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 blah. Let's find out if that page is still there. Okay, yes, the page is still there. Because back then it got removed. But yeah, it's mostly just because I do mature content. That's why I haven't posted anything on Webtoons. If I were to do something that's more air quotes family, because like they even have issues with gore, so it's like, okay, so if I want characters to fight and be violent, I have to baby that too, and at that point I'm just better off doing my own shit. Yeah, I just have to just figure out what would be the best choice behind it, and then like with the card game thing, at least I can get away with something easier than most situations. But yeah, it's just ultimately it's because Webtoons is really iffy with their mature content, and it pisses me off. But if I want to make something for their site, I just have to cherry pick what I do. Uh, can any of the fruit siblings get pregnant? Yes. Pineapple takes advantage of that quite often. The serious cobalt in your universe? I don't know what you mean by that. One of his eyes isn't colored. You can easily find her on DeviantArt and all that. Just find my page and just type in pineapple. She shouldn't be difficult to find at all. But yeah, her whole kink is getting knocked up. I think once I'm done with this part, I'm going to call it for tonight. Yeah, she's just a little gremlin who likes getting knocked up. She's like, oh no, you got me knocked up. And she can just make it poof away because she's a demigod. But she just likes the idea of putting other people, or putting men in that position and having fun with it. She's like, oh, I hope you take responsibility for this, even though she is 100% the cause of it. And then dragon fruit can knock up mortals, or at least the proxies that he's surrounded by. But that's like a whole other scenario. Okay, all that's left. Huh. Strangely, I did not color this. I usually do. Alright. I'm gonna call it for tonight. Hold on. Let me read one more thing. God of War was right. Gods are evil. Well, it's not really evil necessarily. It's like good and evil is weird because good and like the definitions of good and evil only apply to those that decide what is good and what is evil. Because to one person, one thing could be considered good, and another thing, and to another person, that same thing could be considered bad. So it makes no sense. Good and evil and / morality make no sense because it only applies to society itself. Sandwich girls look interesting. Would you create a My Little Pony universe? If I felt like it, sure. I don't see anything wrong with it. I've drawn a couple of My Little Pony characters here and there. Wait, what does Pineapple do if someone steps up and agrees to help her with it? Or if she hits a target and she has a Draco King too. Probably just doesn't care. She'll probably just make it go away or just tease him. Or just lies like, oh my god, you thought I was pregnant, you such a creep, or something. Like, she just does the whole humiliation thing. She won't care. It's not gonna matter. And then if she finds somebody who's into the pregnancy thing, then that just spices up the relationship more. She might hang out with them more often, or if the person finds out that she can just make herself pregnant and then not pregnant, then that's probably like a thing in itself. It's like, oh, so you can just knock yourself up and take it away, and she's like, yep, like, oh, that's so hot, and then, you know, blah blah blah, go on from there. So she can do whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, good and evil is bullshit, so it doesn't matter. Like, you gotta remember, back in the day, it's like, oh, it's illegal to have alcohol, and look where we are now. Same thing for weed. Back then, people went to jail for weed, and look where we are now. Same thing for slavery. It's like, look, people don't care. They only care when it benefits them in some way. But anyway, I'm gonna call it for tonight. Thank you everybody for coming. I will stream again next week. I'm only keeping the streams to once a week right now because I'm working on the contest stuff, and I want to have time for that. I want to have time to work on the Patreon stuff, so that way I'm not, you know, leaving you guys in the dark and all that, which you guys are still my priority even if I'm working on the contest. So, you know, I'm still going to try to update and all that. Once Secrets is done, I'm going to get back into Black Circus and I Had Volume 2. They'll probably have slow updates while the contest thing is going on, but as soon as the contest is over, or, you know, however far I get in the contest and I don't go on to like the next round, blah blah blah, then they'll just give me more time to work on my own shit. Other than that, yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I am debating on what I'm gonna do with the $10 tier, because either I'm gonna discontinue it, or I'm gonna try to put out some stuff pretty soon for it, so that way it's not sitting there with only one update. But yeah, thank you for coming. I will see you guys again next week. You guys take care. Obviously, I'll chat with you on Discord and all that, but until then, bye bye. Have a good night, everybody.